Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the farm and how it even came about, this farm?
Yeah, basically Michael Birch, family grew up in the village. His grandmother was born above the shop. He had local family, and the village started falling into disrepair, the pub and everything else, and he felt quite bad. So he wanted to invest, and he bought the pub, the chip shop, and then he's bought the corner shop and renovated to amazing high standards. And part of the manor, which he wants to turn into a hotel, and what he then bought was the animal farm. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, and they bought this land here. This was, what I'm going to say, just arable, and then they landscaped it, and then over the time things have progressed. But the whole thing is about a journey, so people staying in the manor will go on a journey, so they'll be able to walk around, see where their food's grown. They can go foraging, they can go for classes, they can go cooking in the potting shed. So it immerses them within what they're doing, not just I'm sitting down having a really nice meal. The executive chef really wants to promote, if you go to a really posh restaurant, you could have wild mushrooms on a little mossy log where you sat down, but he wants you to sit on a mossy log eating wild mushrooms in the woods. That's a whole experience, so that's part of what we do. And then we had obviously a chance for Market Garden to grow vegetables to supply the pub, the shop, the manor, and hopefully eventually veg boxes for the community, local community, because this is a community base. We want people to embrace it rather than be against it. And then Josh come and everything is been taken off. I worked with Josh before in a big ornamental place, and then he asked me to come and work here. So
Cool.
Here I am, because I got taught by him. So if anyone's going to understand Josh's ways, it's me. So that's why I'm here.
Cool.
And that's how we are growing and learning day by day. The start with working with yourselves was to utilise the bacteria to process and break down all our food waste from the pubs, our garden waste, to break it down into multiple structures that the plants and insects can eat really well.
Cool.
So, obviously with yourselves, we started off with the very basic, buying your EM solution with molasses. We built our own brew tank, which was a aquarium heat, and basically we brew our own EM in here.
Okay. Your design with your tank is very good. We've actually taken some tips off you as well.
There's about 3 times with different things, and then just because we had a lot of fluctuations with the temperature.
Yeah.
So we've got obviously the insulation on it as well. That did help.
Yeah.
But we get some really good results.
Cool.
That's always been very positive. Once brewed, it stays in here, and then we use the solutions obviously for our bokashi, but we also use it as part of our feeding and maintenance spray on the whole area. So we put it in as part of our spray solution, which we are finding that by putting that bacteria onto the soil and plants, it's waking up the other bacteria in the soil. So we're getting some quite positive, and it's well known now across the gardening that you can actually wake up soil by increasing that bacteria. One wakes another one because it's interested, they talk to each other. It's baffling. But again, it's Mother Nature, and this is why I like it, because all it is Mother Nature, and we're tweaking it.
So I personally, and this is why I like coming to see you, is that EM is part of your story, but also I know you have a cupboard full of stuff. Do you mind going through some bits of the IMOs and etc.? That would be cool, because actually it's really important for people to understand that actually this is not the process, this is part of a process. And one thing that I've learned from yourself is that we obviously sell this product as a product off the shelf, but you have now designed it as part of your system to incorporate the EM, but also some other bits. So do you mind going through some?
No, not at all. I mean, we basically use your EM on every spray application. Even if we're just irrigating, like potatoes, we'll put EM to help with blight. Yeah. That combat. So it is used through a lot. Well, every solution I make up to spray out, it always has EM in.
And the reason for that?
It's to increase the bacteria. It's obviously to knock down the bad bacteria.
Yeah.
So that's the balance. So by spraying it, we keep down blight, the fungal.
And this is what we'll look at later on, obviously,
Yeah.
with what yourself and Josh have created here with your natural kind of aspect in gardening.
Yeah.
But also, kind of understanding that, one part won't do everything, and actually having everything in process.
Yeah.
But you do have some fails as well. It's not just
it's
not just the positives.
Yeah.
There are
It's
some negatives.
learning in progress, because you're working with Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And she can always throw the weather, or extreme temperatures, cold, and things like that. So we have had failures. We've had some really good successes with the bokashi, which I'll explain in a minute. Those different processes.
Yeah. And this is the thing that I like about yourself and Josh, is that when you talk about this, you also talk about failures, but the failures are good because you learn from it.
Yeah. What I'm going to say, we've learned so much, even from the basis of making the brew.
Yeah.
Because the first one took so long because the fluctuation of the night temperature in the little porta cabin, which we had originally, just didn't allow it to become active enough.
And I what I like about this is that I've seen, going from what you had.
Yes.
To what you now have. I appreciate it's a development and you have to start somewhere, but this has obviously helped with your brewing, etc. Having somewhere warmer makes a difference, and also modifying to actually do it. Can we have a look in your cupboard?
Yeah, of course you can. The reason we have a reservoir in the middle, so we can make solutions up. We can make it, and that will stay for about 2 weeks in here. And then basically put the towel on because you would walk into it. So then we can put it into we've got 3 different sprayers. Okay, we've got the knapsack, we use a lot, which is very good for smaller areas. We have a 98 litre battery one there. And then what I'll do is I'll pull out the big boy. We've got a 200 litre petrol driven aerator.
And you'll see later on the reason why you need the big boy, because actually you have how many acres here?
I think we got 11 acres.
11 acres now.
Yeah, it's 11 acres in total.
So you have a lot of area.
Yes, especially for the orchard. So basically we can make our brews up, put it in there and then just use it, so we can use this. That's the reason we built this into it. So the other part we use is natural feeds for plants. So with the stage of every plant, it's the same as every living object. You have a baby, and then it's a teenager, then it's an adult fertility, and then they die. So when commercially you fertilize and use chemical fertilizers, you give that plant a bang load of fertilizer right at the beginning. Well, we wouldn't give a 6-month toddler steak and chips as it is, as we would. You wouldn't give your dog 3 months' food in one day. Yeah. But that's what the chemicals do. So what we've worked, which is the Korean natural farming method, is we ferment different plants for different reasons. So all the plants are collected from the farm, and basically we mix. We can pick, like when the first shoots of brambles come out, really green, lush. We go around picking a load of them up, we mix them with equal quantities of sugar. Now, sugar draws all the nutrients, enzymes out of those, and we ferment it for about 14 days. So basically you end up with a liquid that has all those really fast growing, which brambles do. Okay, so that becomes a really effective food for plants because it's got the enzymes for growing, it's got the resistance from obviously everything because they are so hard. So what we do with the EM spray, we've got about 8 things we put into our sprays, and that is part of it. So different stages. So like we've got a beetroot one, which we would different stages. So when it's an adult and its maturity, it's setting its seed, it's putting its fruits on, as we say. So we will give a beetroot a spray just before it's setting its big taproot. So basically everything in there has got all the enzymes and nutrients that plant wants at that time.
And this is what I like about your system, is that you're understanding that actually the best way to inoculate what you have is actually using the inoculation that's already in nature in your own farm.
Yeah, because it survived in the temperature, you know, and any bacteria, because this is obviously safe to, because it's only in sugar, but it's open to bacteria. So it will have the natural bacteria from those leaves, you know, every sort of good bacteria. And that's why EM helps us keep that good bacteria balance up. So we would go, chickweed is another weed that grows really quick. So we would use that at the seedling stage. So we would make a solution up and then we would spray those seedlings. So that has got, again, fast nutrients, quick growing, you know, and a different stage. And we also do it with flowers, so vegetable flowers. So when a plant's coming into flower, we can make a spray. Again, it's giving all the nutrients it wants there and then. You know, it's like us when we got a headache, we take a tablet then. Yeah. You don't take tablets 2 weeks before, just in case you get a headache. And that's I try to make it simple.
Well, yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is I'm looking at some of the dates on here. You've got some 21s, etc. So you definitely over time, you try and do it season by season instead of just going, oh yeah, this year, 2020, that's going to be the only one I use. Actually, every year is different. And I think you probably find with these inoculations, they do smell very different every year. Because
There's different things. Climate, when I'm picking it might be in a sunny morning, so there might be more sugars in it. You know, it might be in a dewy morning, so there's probably more bacteria on the leaves. You know, all those sort of things change it. So we do. I mean, I haven't made any this year because we had a lot of stock to use up. But, you know, some have been really good, some haven't. We also go and collect seaweed from the local beaches. We do the same principle with sugar, enzymes. That is more of just a general, but it's very high in minerals. Which obviously a lot of our soil is deficient.
So I think the original project with you was firstly to regenerate what was very well used land.
It was ryegrass, it was pasture, you know, really not. It was very high bacteria count, you know, nothing really, no fungi, such and such. But by using these solutions and the EM and IMO, indigenous microorganisms, which I'll come on to next, basically what we're trying to create in all our vegetable beds is a forest floor. If you walk through a forest floor and kick it, you see all the microfibers, you see all that life. Okay, so all those leaves that fall down, if there wasn't the bacteria and fungi, in 10 years you wouldn't see the trees because they would just build up and build up. So what we do in our veg beds, we breed bacteria, as in say the EM. So we do IMO, which is more of the fungi. So basically everything we grow, we cut, and we drop back on that bed. Just breaking that conventional, we used to take it away and knock down. You know,
and it makes me laugh because, you know, the old-fashioned way of farming was actually to think about, you know, I need to get rid of this because it's a waste. Take it off-site and then bring in fertilizers in. You know, we both smile when we think about this because it sounds insane, but we're actually not processing something that could be used because as a human we think it's waste, but actually in nature there's no such thing as waste.
Well, I'll show you the Windrow, which would be again we use with the which would be the next process of the large amount of products we have on this farm that we need to utilise. So going back to the soil and everything else. So the other things we grow is indigenous microorganisms.
I love this.
This is basically what we do is we find a really old woodland. We found a local one that's really ancient oak. So you need oak trees, beech trees. Okay, that's where you get a majority of the fungi growing underneath. So basically what we do is we cook rice al dente, cool it, and then we've got boxes. So these are our boxes. So it's untreated wood. This is old oak when they ripped out the manor. So we utilised it, drilled holes in it. So basically what we do is we third fill this with al dente cold cooked rice. Now the reason we use rice is really effective. It's a superfood, super starchy, super carbohydrate. We're trying it with our own grown wheat. Not having a great success, so we're still playing with it. But the rice works. So basically, we put this rice, and then we got a fly mesh, just because we obviously don't want flies laying eggs and maggots and turning it through. And then my little friends are rodents because they love rice. Well, they make a nest in it. They eat the rice and then make a nest in it. So we now put covers on it. So basically, and then we find a lovely place in the woodlands where you know there's a lot of activity, as in the microfibers, all that growth, fungi, mycelium. And then I'll show you a picture. So there's the rice, and then the stages. The reason we don't cook the rice fully, it stays longer. If you overcook it, it goes putrid really quickly because obviously it hasn't got no structure. So
this is from Korean.
in Korean natural farming, if I can show you. And then basically we find a little place, we bury it, we put a half a flower pot over the top just to keep the rain off, and then we backfill it. If you find any logs around or branches that have obviously got a lot of fungal growth, we put it against it. And then the next stage is up to 10 days. And basically what you do is you put your hand underneath, and if there's the fungi and growth there, it gets very warm. Then you have to process it within 20 minutes to half an hour. So basically you have to take sugar with you and scales, because you need to put equal quantities with that rice with sugar. But this is showing you what we get. That's the rice we take out. So this is all the mycelium, completely growth through there. And again, I can show you, as you can see, we're around the rice.
So this is actually a really simple process and something that's quite ancient in respect to how we do it. It is,
again, so again, we're tweaking it. So basically we bring it back here. So we would have mixed it with the sugar, and then we put it in jars. And basically, when you put the sugar, draws the moisture out, which puts it all based, it's a status, puts it to sleep until we're ready to use it. And so that's IMO2. IMO3 is we've got a cedar box in here that basically what we do is we get bran, we get oats, and wood chip. So if we say we put 10 kilos of each, 30 kilos, we put it into the bin. We take about 2 handfuls of this, that's all. And then I make a solution with the sugars and the EM to push up the moisture. So again, they all wake up. So they got more bran, they got more carbohydrates with the wheat and everything else. And basically it starts off really cool, but it then shoots up as the activity goes up and up and up to about 120. It will go higher. It's like wrestling a bear because you have to turn it to cool it. So once it gets to 120 Fahrenheit, you need to cool it because it will cook itself, because that's completely a natural environment for it to be in. It would never have that much carbohydrate. You know, it might be a dead pigeon fell down with some wheat and that. That's as much. They wouldn't have literally 20 kilos in one area. So you have to really control it. And then once it's eaten and settled, it drops back down again. So then you've got that 30 kilos of highly inoculated material. Then what you do in IMO4, you put 30 kilos of soil, and then you put more solution in with it, which is again a bit more moisture, a bit more food, because the sugars, it happens again. It's a shorter period, but then you end up with 60 kilos of highly inoculated material that then you sprinkle on the beds and then cover. So those again will go into there and help break down everything.
So I presume when your forest is established, you'll be doing that same process here, and trying to create that
you always keep adding, you know, because we're finding certain, you know, indigenous microorganisms live in different parts. So you'll get ones living by a stream that are really used to wet, horrible, muddy. They survive. So if you can make a solution, so they are going to survive in the wintry, wet autumns, where the ones that you might have got at the top of a hill that are really dry and stony, don't like it wet, they go to sleep. So if you can get different ones from different places, you can have that complete balance. And what we also do is we make biochar. Now biochar is a part burn, but like they do, a tree struck by lightning burns, half burns, and then falls to the ground. Now, if you look at the molecular structure of biochar, it's just full of microscopic tunnels. Bacteria and fungi use it as homes, hotels. So when it's had no food, say it's a certain food source this bacteria fungi like, it's not here, you go to sleep in the biochar. It's the same with bacteria, you know, when the food comes to the source or the weather changes. So by having that whole process that isn't normally in a forest, and that's where you build that basis.
It does make me laugh when we talk about this. Actually, we're just trying to imitate nature, but humans.
All I said, all we're doing is imitating, you know, Mother Nature's been doing it for millions of years, but tweaking it for us.
And all we're trying to do is learn
Yeah.
from Mother Nature to come back to this situation.
Yeah, and she's like Fanny, she just completely changes everything and starts again.
Yeah, that's very true. So you use I'd like to look in your containers and your bokashi coffee grinds, etc.
But coffee.
For coffee.
But coffee, it's called.
Yeah. This is trademarked.
This is putting Andrew out of the job now. We used to have the bokashi brand, and because we want to try and make it so in-house, everything waste and recyclable as we can, we try different methods. We tried wood chip and it didn't quite right. So I tried the coffee grounds from the coffee, you know, from the pub. We found it actually worked quite well.
So can you explain that process of how you make the coffee?
Yep. So basically, we put airtight containers in the back of the pub, so that when they have their coffee grounds, they tap them out. Airtight goes back on. But when that bucket is put up there, I always put some EM in the bottom, so there's already that process started. When it fills up, it comes back here. We do a 2-stage system. So throw the bucket in really clean, and then I mix it with EM, and that's a week old. I only did that last week. So that's just pure coffee grounds with EM. It smells lovely.
God, I can smell it from here.
So basically that's that stage one there. So we keep that in an airtight container again. And then we have a long-term barrel. And this barrel here has been here for 6 months. So we leave that in that barrel probably 2-3 weeks. And then again, we use it as airlock, so the gases can come out. This probably won't do. Oh no, it's done quite well as well. So that had last week had the bucket that was full up previous. Does that make sense? So basically, what we can use this for is we can use it instead of bran. We can put it in our potting mixes. So we're obviously inoculating our own compost when we're potting on. So we're trying to encourage good bacteria, get rid of all the nasties. I'm going to say at the bottom, I know Mark wants to take a sample of that.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what microactivity.
Yeah, that'd be really good. But also there is goodness within coffee grounds and another organic material that will break down again and more food.
And that's the thing that, when people talk about the cashew brand or when we're talking about kind of, this system, sometimes I have to remind myself that it's not just one thing. Because if you have one thing, then so it has to work with other things.
Exactly. You've got bacteria and fungi. You need them to work in balance, really.
Yeah.
For health. Well, for us, for growing vegetables.
Yeah.
And plants, you need that balance.
Yeah.
Because the annuals basically get fed by bacteria, fungi feed the perennials, like that's getting in the trees.
And this is the thing we generally with farming is that because you normally got monoculture in to crops, and it doesn't work very well because as a system, nature doesn't work like that.
No.
And what farmers are now realising is that yes, you can still continue on with the monoculture, and there are farmers out there that do very well out there, but they're never going to have an increase in yield, and especially nutritional value of that. There's not going to be diversity because there's not the diversity there.
That plant each year takes the same nutrients, and they clear it away, so that depleting more fertilizers, and then there's weeds that come in that are only going to really, horrible soils, which are really hard because they're tough. So there's more pesticides and there's more insecticides and there's the whole thing just the soil deteriorates naturally. It's just It just baffles me why it happens. When you have so much material, which I'll show you in the Windrow,
Yeah.
that you have material, you can turn into a very useful material to put back on there with no hardly any cost. This is our sprayer. This had to be bought from America because of the filtration and the spray capability. A lot of sprayers would break down the molecule structures of fungi, bacteria by the pressure going through the nozzles. So America are a little bit more ahead with this bio spraying. So we had this. Also we had an aerator pot on it because once this tank's full up with EM and a lot of my compost teas, it needs to be aerated to keep it alive. Else it just starts dying. Well, there's pointless doing that. But you're very lucky today because this is full of EM.
Oh, yeah.
So what I've also been using it is our Windrow, where we start spraying the material as we lay it into the Windrow. So we'll go outside in a bit and show you.
So what I like about this though is that for people that don't understand what the white stuff is, can you explain what the white stuff is on the top of
The
here?
white stuff is basically yeast extract from all the microbes.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
This is not bad.
No, that is, I could drink it, but I'm not thirsty.
Yeah.
But no, basically that is completely, yeah.
And I think it's the thing with EM, people that are probably watching this are thinking, oh, you know, the good and bad bacteria, they don't really understand that process. But rule of thumb, would you agree, if it's purple or green,
Yeah.
then that's a no-no?
Yeah.
Anything
yeah,
that's white,
greys, blacks,
Yeah.
you have to watch over the basis. I mean, the whole basis of, you know, everyone knows about the bacteria in the sheep.
yeah,
You know, so you get 80% of sheep will always follow the most dominant sheep. So if you say you had 12% bad bacteria and 8% good, all those 80% of sheep will follow the bad bacteria. That's when you get really bad soil. That's when you get a lot of disease. So by putting EM, if you can push the balance to say 12% good bacteria, 8% bad, all those 80% sheep will follow the good bacteria. Now this has been in here for 2.5 weeks with just the lid on.
Yeah.
It hasn't spoiled. And that's mixed with rainwater. So that's filled with rainwater.
So I'm quite happy
So
to put
what-
my hand in because I'm
It's
quite
obviously
used to
done
this.
its job.
Yeah.
That hasn't turned bad.
No, because I smell that.
Yeah.
And that smells. Smells
So
like.
that is just literally
Smells
rainwater,
lush.
not good water, rainwater. So that shows you the power of brewing EM and how good it can be.
So for people that are not DIY, just to make you aware, you can make this. We make a product called Actifirm. This is the cheapest way of doing it. Actually, we encourage people to do this because DIY is always the best way. And using the brewers, which we talked about earlier, the easiest way to do it is to brew it with sugarcane molasses, EM1, rainwater, or water's not got too much chlorine in it, with a heater element and a brewing vessel.
Yeah.
You know, within a couple of weeks, you've got your activated EM. So actually, it's quite a simple process.
Yeah.
And I know that you've wanted to go down the DIY route because, you know, not just to do with cheapness, but also you can control what you put into it as well.
Yeah, we can tweak it to how we wanted to. You know, we picked up an old trailer that was from a farm across the road. So we're trying to utilise anything we can to make our lives easier.
Yep.
Apart from the flat tire that side, but don't tell anyone. So I would have wheeled it out. So basically this we can make any solutions up and also keep the solutions alive in here. I mean, I'll just show you just for, so basically aerate, so you can just see it bubbles up really quickly. We don't really need it for EM, but when we do other microbes, it will actually just keep it alive.
So the interesting thing is, because EM is facultative, so it works in anaerobic and aerobic, it'll be interesting to see what that does in respect to the process.
It will wake them up.
And but having that opportunity to use other things to be able to do that is, it's good to have. So it's a massive bit of kit, and it's a very expensive bit of kit, but as you'll see later on, it's a reason.
Need it.
You'll need it for this.
A lot of ground.
A lot of ground to spray.
I've been nicknamed now the fireman with a long hose. So
Brilliant.
we have. But yeah, amazing bit of kit. But again, you don't have to have it as big. That small one out there that I got, which we had before.
Knapsack sprayers.
Knapsack. We only really use this on big jobs like the orchard, and if we were doing a whole field, produce field, as a general spray. Most of it we do in that side. That's easiest, and we just break it all down. So again, we bought these and adapted them.
So these are fish tubs, yeah?
No, the pallet. The pallet storage.
Yeah.
So basically, see how good we've got in here. I'm going to say this has not been opened. So it's,
Oh, there's loads of worms in it, though. Hello.
well, that's wood chip at the top. Just that was my just to finish it off. Yeah, it's got it down through there.
There she is.
Yeah, it's got insects in it. So
That's okay.
we've got good.
Yeah.
There's a fine sign of, that's a microbe, that's obviously Phacelia, there it is, all from the wood chip. This is why we put the wood chip on top. It's our own wood chip. Yep, I mean, that's obviously started breaking down really nicely. Again, it's the system.
So what's collected to go into here?
So to start with, we were taking every waste, and that was meat, plate scrapings and everything else, but we obviously had to be very careful with the meat going back into the food chain. So
yep,
basically
understand.
Now it is all vegetable, bread, scraps from the kitchen come up. They have a special bin that obviously you very kindly gave us, which has worked really well, because it means that we don't have to go down every day and collect it. So it stays in, it comes back in here. I layer it, I treat it with EM. I use either the bran, which we still got some of your bran, and I also use some of our own coffee grains as well. And then we layer it until it's chocker. I like putting wood chip over the top.
Yeah, gives it a good seal.
Microbes, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, they're not perfect, so what we're looking at is putting a metal drain pipes in it. So Martyn, the maintenance man, used to be a plumber, so we're going to put proper, so we don't have the problems. Again, learning from the experience. But we've had some really good results, which I can show you. We haven't got a lot of it left. Right, these are our aerating compost bins. So we have different carbon. Again, this is evolving, so we were going to have carbon in one, green waste, wood chip, bokashi, to make our own compost. So what I'm going to show you inside here is what's left of last year's bokashi. As you can see, there's still remnants of animal bones. So this can only be used for ornamental.
Yeah.
For our ornamental beds and ornamental compost.
So this had meat in it, this one, didn't it?
Yeah. And again, what we did, because of the worms, basically putting it into basically a worm bin, the bokashi, when we emptied it out, was a layer, made a donut around the outside of horse manure, and then layered it.
So to explain why we're using it for ornamental, the reason being in the UK, unfortunately, we have rules and regulations. Unfortunately, the government don't really understand the whole thing when it comes to composting. No. So bokashi, unfortunately, at the moment is in between PAS 100 and PAS 110. We are working with DEFRA to try and have this education. Fermentation equals safe, so pathogens like E. coli and Salmonella. We've had Iceland reports, so Iceland, the country, they're doing some bokashi over there. They've inoculated with E. coli and Salmonella, 0 pathogens, and we know it's safe, but unfortunately in the UK, we still can't do that. So when you came to us and I said, we were discussing it, you did the right thing, and for meat and etc., ornamental, because there's no rules and regulations for that. No. But I've tested this and I gave you results. It was fully safe. There was no E. coli or Salmonella in it, and no harmful pathogens. Also, no harmful metals as well. So, from that data, you can obviously utilise it. But at the moment, you need to obviously use it just for ornamental. Yeah,
and we've seen some amazing results using it in the plants, the growth, the health of the plants. The whole basis is.
And this is the thing, is the disease side, and this is what most people, forget about, is that if you can help that root system and that plant to be able to get nutrients, etc., from other areas, using obviously the carbon content and the good bacteria, and the fungi to then communicate through that. It's actually a really simple system, because nature just talks to nature, and then from there it then creates its own immune system. There is a lot of science with people that have putting their hands in soil on a regular basis, how they get less ill than people that don't. And that's just to do
immune system. And this is the same as obviously as the generations grow up now, how many people get asthma and everything, because everything you use is an antibacterial. So you're not only killing the bad bacteria, you're killing the good guys. So that balance our own
and hopefully with the education you do here in the future, we will get kids being able to play in mud again and playing in soil
and eat worms
at this point.
It probably explains a lot of my problems. But yes, so that's the end product when it's gone really well. So.
Cool. Vermicomposting.
Yep.
So this, when I first came to have a look at this, I was very impressed with the size. But now you realise that actually it takes a long time to fill one of these up. So this in here is what?
Well, we started off at the bottom. There's a lattice effect of ropes. So the idea was, once the worms are settled, and it takes quite a long time and build up the layer slowly, you can then riddle the bottom, and then compost will come out the bottom, or obviously worm digest. So we brought in 3 kilos of worms for this whole entire unit. So we started off with the rope, then we put cardboard, horse manure, and some greens from the garden, and each time we layer it up, and then we put cardboard over the top to keep the moisture in. So I'm going to say this should be, I can actually reach into it for a change because it's been so low, but because it's dry the worms are going quite deep, but you can see all the tiger worms, quite a lot of them going through, and that is a very good obviously for making our own potting compost. And I also put EM in this. I spray this, or if I have any byproducts from my EM, will go into this. So again, it's a highly inoculated soil. So that's why very rarely do you see any bad growth. As you see the growth here, it's good growth because it's white.
Yep. So there's an old myth that I don't know if you've got any citrus in here at all. Have you got any like lemons and stuff like that?
What, growing?
No, lemons as in you're feeding the worms. Have you fed them anything citrusy?
Not really, no.
No. So just something that I've learned from America with vermicomposting. You say that they don't like it. If you bokashi it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they've completely changed the structure.
Yeah. So they like
acidity.
It. Yeah. And I think this is the thing, especially with worms, if you bokashi before you put it into the system, it's like fast food for them. It's not really
like McDonald's. No, it is. Yeah, definitely. So again, there is bokashi being put in this.
Yeah.
Well, some of that bokashi.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we've had small bits, and when I've had stuff come back from the pub, like I said, when there wasn't enough to open that up, I would inoculate it, and then it would go in here.
Yeah.
So we have different ways of utilising.
And this is what I like about your system, and we'll talk obviously about your Windrow in a minute, but you're looking at every part of composting, not just one part of composting, because aeration, anaerobic, vermicomposting all have a place.
Yeah, the balance, which is again what a forest floor would be. So that's the generation of what we need. So the Windrow basics of all this is meadow hay from across the road, so there's our own hay. Basically what we're doing is we're filling it up, and as each layer goes in we're spraying it with EM, and we will build it up, and then we have a heavy duty tarpaulin, a bit like a silage pit, completely seal it, weight it down, and then that fermentation with the basic Windrow bokashi. So that material will get pickled over a year, and then we can use the broken down material to mulch our beds. So again, all this material has come from the garden, it's going back on the garden, it's a closed loop.
I think we may need to explain what this is, because people are going to probably look at this and go, why is there a big...
This is a bale of hay from the orchard that was done 2 years ago. So they were stacked This is before we went to plastic free. So the next lot is those bales there that obviously still have the netting, but we take that off, but we don't use the polythene anymore.
Yeah.
And in the same principle, it will get rolled out. There was 14 bales so far in this, and we've probably got another 15 or so to go in. As you can see, it collapses down. But it was really interesting, the heat that was coming off of it about 2 weeks after we did it, because we ran out of time. We wanted to fill the whole thing up in one day and seal it, but we haven't. So, but again, it's allowed us to put our own spills, our leftover plants and everything else. So again, it's not a monocultural thing. But one thing by having this product, worms absolutely love fermented hay. They just draw it into the ground. It disappears so quick, and that shows the principle.
So, so obviously that's going to create liquid. So these bits here.
Yeah, we have a Windrow, which has got willow. It's got reeds in it, and basically the liquid would leach into there and then be taken up to by the plants. So nothing is literally wasted at all.
And that's what I like about this system is that you are looking at it as a full system. You're not trying to waste, you're trying to get everything you can.
So if there is a lot of rain and we get a lot of leaching, it sits in there and it will get naturally drained. Those plants will filter a lot of it anyhow, and then it can just naturally leach to the other side, which will be our cut flower garden. I
mean, you're saying obviously it's overgrown and most people look at this, but as you can see, birds are loving it.
Yeah, well, blackbirds, the mountain blackbirds, we had 2 to start with up by the greenhouse. They love that. There's about 4 or 5 underneath that bauble, but they love the bauble. But the amount of blackbirds we see now is amazing. Just, we've had Devon Wildlife Trust. They did 2 surveys and they can't believe how much life has come back here in such a period.
Because it's not been long, is it?
No. Well, 3 years really. You're talking about what this has been done since Josh has been here. Really, this is the strong Josh influence, natural farming. The meadows, the whole process that Josh thinks about. It's a lot of people can't quite grasp it, but actually when you see the results, and learn from the failures. We've made failures, we all do.
Yeah, but so does nature, though. I mean, this is the thing we forget. Actually, what we see as a failure doesn't mean that it's a failure. It just means that we got more of an understanding.
Yes. As you can see, that is all docks.
So from a farmer's point of view, they'll look at this.
It's the biggest nightmare, and a lot of farmers will go, "Oh my goodness gracious me!" But because of obviously what it offers, they're actually not doing any harm because we're not growing anything they will affect. Okay, they are. A slight windbreak as well to protect all. This is our orchard, all the fruit trees, fruit bushes, and we have agroforestry trees to break the lines up as well. It's all done in a spiral. They have rows in between. This year we've completely left it. We haven't mowed it at all. But what we would do normally, if we mowed it, between each row there's an avenue. We would get a sickle, so that would cut the grass at full length, and we'd take it the produce field and use it as a mulch. So again, we're utilising everything we have here. We don't need to buy in. We don't need to buy in compost or anything to suppress the weeds, keep the moisture in, give food to the bacteria and fungi, all in the same sort of thing.
I wonder if we can actually see, because there was some fungi when I was having a walk around the other day. There's loads of spores normally coming up.
Quite wetty feety.
It's really wet. And this is what I like about this, is that actually the wetness is it's not just to do with it's been raining, but actually it's keeping its moisture.
Yeah, I mean this is really...
I mean, if you look around the tree and this stuff...
Because this is just mulch and manure, and that's just holding... And again, all this grass is holding everything in. I mean, look how loose that soil is. It's just lovely.
Look at it. And this is what you've created as a design so that the moisture that does come then is utilised by the system.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing to bear in mind is that one of the big things that you've done in here is you've tried to create carbon pockets and retain that carbon to be able to do something with it and obviously create those nutrient pockets that are needed for the plants
Yeah,
themselves.
and again, we can utilise, you know, we cut the docks down, we can put them round the bottom of the plants. There's a mulch, there's a feed, the grass, everything here is what we need. But this year we've left it completely go wild, just to see what happens, see if it has any impact at all, or any negative impact, because why would we put the manpower into cutting it, mowing it, using fossil fuels, when we probably don't need to?
Yeah.
You know, so it's again, Josh is thinking about going into more of an edible forest. So you put more canopies, more trees in it, more fruit bushes. So basically,
And more
Josh's
shade. And more shade. You know what Josh said to me the other day, and I think, you know, it's a valid point when we talk about these things, is that actually we forget sometimes, especially in a changing climate, that at some point, if you don't have that canopy,
Yeah.
then things are just going to burn.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually,
the soil is going to get drier and drier and drier and drier.
and one thing Josh said to me, and I'm sure you agree, is that maybe there's some sense in agroforestry in respects to growing things. So actually having a forest and having the canopy to be able to shelter
Look at
them.
rainforests,
Yeah,
really hot countries, but look at the growth, the lushness. Why? Because it's got a canopy.
yeah. Interesting.
Rather than chucking all these fancy foods and crops to grow everywhere that really everyone, just grow what we have and we'll grow.
The problem we have though, and this is one thing I've learnt from you guys here, is that when you look at something, in my head, I could look at it and think, is it edible or is it not? And what you fed me, you know, walking down, I look at it and go, that looks like a weed, that must be bad.
Yeah.
And the problem is, especially with UK society, is that we've got to this point in our way of mentality, is that if it's not in a supermarket and it's not being grown, therefore it's not the right thing.
No.
And actually, well, we'll see in a minute, obviously with your vegetable patches, there's stuff in perennials especially,
Yes.
which are delicious.
Yeah, but the thing is, people can't grow perennials in polytunnels because the people want it in the supermarket 2 months before it should be in season. We've lost our natural thing to eat what's in season.
Yeah,
We should grow, eat what's around us because that's how we've evolved and our Mother Nature.
yeah, and that's the exciting thing that's coming in the future, which I'm hoping, is that we have the opportunity to be able to eat seasonally, because that actually creates variety.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing I'm really excited about is that, you know, we'll get back to the time when, you know, strawberries aren't available all year round, and actually people will find alternatives to be able to you know, to eat different things that are sweet in winter time, etc.
So again here, this was the hay we took off all those windrows last year because we had a lot of annual seeds, weed seeds. So we bring it here and make a pile of habitat, but also we sprayed it with EM and it's naturally rotting down.
Yeah.
Again, so if we need to mulch around any of our trees, we have it right here.
Yeah.
So it's literally, you know.
Are you making sloe gin this year? Because they're looking like...
They do use it in the pub.
Do they? Because they look fat
We do
and
get
juicy.
a lot.
Oh, actually, while we're here, nuts. Not like that,
Or
but
raisins.
nuts
Or
and raisins.
Yeah.
Because you've got nut trees here, haven't you?
We've got walnuts, chestnut. Oh, I mean, I struggle with all the names of different ones we've got. We've got so many nuts because there's a lot of market gardeners around here, but there's not many people that do fruit and nut. I don't mean the bar chocolate either. It's basically. So we're going to try and growing a lot more nuts and a lot more fruit to supply the local area.
Yeah, because I obviously looking at your cherry trees, I wouldn't expect any cherries to be on here because...
No, well, this is the third year, okay? The first year before me and Josh were here, they were planted out in a very bad, wet February, and they did not set off well at all, basically. So we've done a lot of work, a lot of staking, a lot of mulching, a lot of spraying. We get in, last year I think we got 28 apples in total from the whole orchard, the small. We did have that very early heat wave last year, which caused apple abortion. So basically it was so dry so early, a tree looks after itself by dropping its fruit early. So rather than it setting seed, it's thinking, no, I'll preserve myself as a tree, I'll do it next year, and it just drops a whole lot. So we actually had, I think it was about 28 apples we could actually eat off the whole orchard. And I think, you know, again, because we had this hot spell, some have stopped dropping, but we're getting a lot more apples. The trees are so much more growth, they're easily twice as much than there was last year. So it's obviously having an effect.
But you can definitely see from the new growth on these that there's definitely been a lot of growth this year.
So,
but that's the thing, and this is what I love about.
Yeah, I was going to say virtually the same again.
This is what I like about it, is that you understand that, you know, some years you have good and some years you'll have bad. But
and
just
it's
one
the same as wine producers, you know, cider producers, everything. You know, everyone has a good year, bad year, and it's trying to help. This is the second year we sowed oxeye daisies, first year, and yellow rattle. This is the second year, so not very long ago, about a month ago, this was a sea of white. Absolutely amazing. We're using yellow rattle, which is a parasitic plant that pushes out grasses. It does rattle, that's why we call yellow rattle. The flowers are yellow. Hello, big. Yellow, right. And then they dry, so you get yellow rattle. So this is a natural parasite, so this will push the grass out, which will allow a lot more wild flowers to generally just self-sow. Okay, so hopefully we're going to get orchids and all sorts of different wild flowers that will just naturally come in, because they'll be the area they won't feel.
So I've got a question for you. What you've sown,
yes.
Have you seen other things that you haven't sown?
Yes, lots of different things. So yes, you know, and that will happen. The more and more grass is put out, you know, that hay will be taken up to the windrow to be processed back.
But you're not taking it straight away?
No.
You're letting it seed
letting
first?
It dry, letting the seeds fall out.
Yep.
We will come with a fork and flick it the old-fashioned way.
Yep.
That's still the best way.
Yep.
You could come in with a hay bob and twiddle it round, but why bring carbon?
Yep.
And it compaction with the tractor, we don't want compaction.
Yep. And that's one thing I've, you know, the ground here, you can see the difference between the agroforestry area and the ground here.
Where people walk, okay, you'll find plants won't grow as quick as fast because the nutrients and air can't get into the roots as you can in areas that nothing walks on. So when we reset a bed, we call it broad fork, which means we break the soil. So we don't cultivate it.
Yes, because the interesting conversation later is no till, no dig. And, you know, how that can be part of it, but is not the only thing.
No. Because of the wind and where we are, we're probably really exposed because the Atlantic's just over there. So we get buffeted with a lot of wind. A lot of wind damage, a lot of plants suffer, a lot of them get bacterial infections because the leaves get ripped. So again, by spraying the EM, we seem to be supporting the plants to heal quicker. And what seems to balance itself out.
And what I like about, you're not relying on greenhouses here, are you?
No.
It's really important to understand
more
that.
The ornamental side. This is to prolong our season with edible flowers, to obviously for the pub and everything else. Herbs. At the minute we've got tomatoes, but that's purely to supply the shop. The pub won't take the tomatoes, you know, so we're going to sell them in the shop. And cucumbers.
And cucumbers.
But the bar is taking the cucumbers to make cocktails, and they do fancy stuff down there all the time. So my little cucumbers are claiming.
And do you know what I like to see? There's bees and all sorts of nature in here.
Yes.
Just buzzing around. So you haven't closed off to nature, you've incorporated in nature.
You know, we've got a tree cabbage growing in it. We've got a perennial tomato plant. You know, we've got evening primrose oil, so it's not all a monocultural, just veg or fruit. You know, you've got mallow, which are edible flowers. Gone over, that's chard.
Yep.
We're just letting it fly, and it was self-seed again.
Yep.
Cavolo Nero.
It does make me laugh because I look at this and most people would say, God, it just looks a mess. But actually there is a lot of logic in this, isn't there?
Yeah. But basically, because this will bring in insects, a lot of these plants and pollinators will come in because there is a diversity. If you only have one or two plants and there's only one or two insects that will probably live in that environment. But by putting all these different things in, you're increasing your balance of Mother Nature. So more predators come in, less pests, less work for us. You know, it's the whole basis of it all.
You know, I'm going to be, I'm going to go and have a little taste of one
Yeah,
of these.
we just put pesticide on the tomatoes, so, no, I'm joking.
And that's what I like about it, because I know that I can eat these off the vine and not have to worry about it. But
So again, cover crop, which is what you see, the chickfoot and the tree cabbage, tree spinach, we just cut it down and that acts as a natural mulch on the ground. Because it's taking all the nutrients out of the ground, so why not put it back in? So it's that whole cycle. So this is the newest area, which is Josh's creation. There's a garden down in South Devon called the Wild Side, which is a gentleman with a digger just dug an amazing garden. So he dug down, and then the spoil, he made heaps. And Josh got inspiration, and also inspiration from the surrounding hills and Dartmoor, which is just over there. So basically this is going to be a highly ornamental. So basically when I said about people coming in the journey, they're going to go and park where you park, they're going to walk through here, get immersed, there'll be a little pond in the middle, and they'll be immersed, and then they'll go on the journey, and this is the start of the journey. So this should be
I want the story about this.
This, all what you see here, there's a power plant at Yelland, which is just down the road about 10 miles away, is just been completely reconditioned, and this is a recycled products as it got all crushed. So we've used a completely recycled product, a waste product, to make this. This is about, I don't know, about that thick all over. The soil, and then that, and then we plant straight into this gravel.
And it's great, it's creating drainage, it's creating structure.
And the other thing, you get little
Brilliant
pickets
idea.
when the sun's out, you get little bits of tile reflect. It's really weird. As you can see, bits of toilet, you know, we found all sorts in here, but it's a story in itself.
Yeah.
But that would have just been landfill wasted, but we're actually turning it into a living thing. And it's really, really exciting. I mean, this next year will just be, whoo. Absolutely. You don't walk up there, you get just get these visitors, they ruin everything. Pictorial meadow mix designed for gravelly wasteland. So that's what you just start seeing, the green. It's not weeds, it's actually purpose. And then what we're starting to do is put all the perennials in it, which are the structure plants, as you see, the grasses and the different trees will be putting in.
It's very interesting to walk along here and see all the different kinds of material. You get bits of tile, bits of brick.
Yeah, we found a spatula. We found quite a lot of interesting stuff. This must have been the toilets and kitchens.
Toilets and kitchens.
Again, Mother Nature, if you look at these banks, you see where there's real clusters of seeds or plants. Again, this is when it was sown, the weed is naturally taken that way. But we've purposely left that because that's the way it does in nature. The wind takes it, and where they land, they grow. So we get a lot of that. So this is a tiered, again, be like a swell, so it will fill up when it's wet, but it will lower itself down when it's dry. You get different habitats for different insects. So when it's wet, certain things will lay eggs and use that as a breeding ground. And when it dries down and cracks up in the summer, well, when the summer is, then different insects will lay eggs in the cracks, knowing that it will fill up with water because they know the residue. It's really clever. They know that's going to fill up with water, so they'll lay the eggs. So when it fills up, they hatch.
And this is when I look at this and the way you're thinking of it,
Yeah.
You're thinking of, right, so what would nature do? Not, I want nature to do this.
Yes.
You're thinking nature first,
Yeah.
and then human second.
Yep. But what that will bring in more predators again. It would bring in more insects again, which are pollinators. You know, people forget, you know, they think bees are the biggest pollinators. Beetles. You know, so many beetles need water and things like that, and they are such good pollinators. So you can see the Dartmoor in the background there. So, you know, you can see the undulations of the mounds are to mimic the landscape as you walk through. That's what the design was for.
And what I like about this, you know, I came here when you first started, actually, Ross.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. I remember coming up here, and probably you would agree with me in respects to nature. there was very little here, very little, and I can see
little.
straight away.
Yeah.
I mean, the birds. I can
Yeah.
hear the birds. I can hear the crickets going, etc.
Yeah, when it's a little bit still and not quite so windy, this is just buzzing, absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
You think you're near a bee's nest or a
Yeah.
wasp nest. It's that busy. So basically, from that ornamental journey, they come to here, which is the start of the edible forest. So this is obviously planted for the scope of in 5 to 8 years until it matures or starts becoming a forest. But basically every plant we've planted in here is on the edible spectrum. So it could be the pollen, it could be the leaf, it could be the roots, it could be the stem, it could be the seed, anything in there. Everything is on the edible spectrum. And the idea in that 5-8 years time, chefs can come through and forage, and it will be like a forest. So you would have mushrooms, and the little gaps you would have, wild berries. That's the principle. So a lot of the bigger trees, as you see, will be cut down and put back onto the ground as that process to, obviously what a normal forest would be. Trees fall down, die,
Yep.
feed the ground. So that whole, some of these bigger trees will put in, because obviously you wouldn't see anything to give that image now.
But this is what I like about what you've designed here. You've designed something for the future,
Yes.
not just for now.
No. And that's a whole part of the journey, so people can come through and immerse themselves in everything that's nature, but also what can be put on a plate, and you go, I saw that growing. No, wow. And that's the experience. Memories, and memories can be from taste, smell, sight. Everything you see are all memories. But if you can put all those memories, skills into one bit, you made it.
Yeah, and what I love about this when I walk through here is that, some things that most people would class as weeds, as they would class them as, probably don't understand the actual, what they do in nature.
Docks. Certain insects would only live on docks, but they're good predators.
I mean, from a farming point of view, that's a bad thing.
Bad boy, yeah. I mean, but also because they're deep rooted, okay, because our soils are so depleted of minerals, because they go deep rooted, their leaves are full of minerals because they've sucked up. So by cutting them down and letting them rot, you've then put minerals at the top. Yeah. The whole cycle again. That's how it all. Carrots. We sowed carrots last year. These have just gone to seed. So how many people have seen a carrot flower?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even know this was a carrot flower.
Carrot flower. So that's last year's carrot left. I mean, things like this should be used. Well, I do use in ornamentals.
Yeah.
Because I come from an ornamental background. So things like that. I mean, just beautiful. How many people like lettuce? How many people have seen a lettuce flower?
I mean, from a naive point of view, people don't even know lettuce flower, do they? Because they never see it.
No. I mean, kale. These are all kale flowers. Who likes kale?
Yeah, I love kale.
And this is it
tastes like kale.
This is a hunger gap.
Weird.
So this is a very late. This is last year's kale. So basically, hunger gap is a very late. It's a very traditional, old-fashioned kale. It's quite strong flavoured, but it will keep growing where the others have died back. So that's why they call it hunger gap. It was that gap between the greens and between the spring green cabbages. So these sort of crops are old style, but that's what they were designed for.
But with the climate that we have, this is actually quite a good thing to do now, because actually this can adapt better in climate conditions, because it's not as posh as a kale from the supermarket.
This is 2 years old. So we sowed the seeds, they grew, they dropped the seeds. This plant's grown. Now it's starting to form its own seeds. So again, third generation. So this plant is learning to live in this soil, live in this condition of wind and everything. So each year, it's like the genes are getting better and better. So we'll get more and more products, produce off of it. Those sort of things make sense. Where naturally you wouldn't keep bringing in new seeds of different varieties. Utilise what we have, and we let everything self-seed. And they learn from each other and then build resistance from the pests and the different things. Wind damage, we find them a lot stronger.
Yeah.
The next generation, because they're used to living in the soil, the moisture and the wind.
But that's what I've noticed here in the last 2 years of coming to visit you.
Yeah.
They are more robust.
Yes.
And more you know, where they have seeded and where you've kind of let it do what it needs to do,
Yeah.
it's understood that the DNA from those, you know, from those seeds are native to this area,
Yeah.
which means it has a bit of programming inside that seed to go, oh, hold on, I know that this is going to be what it's going to be like when it comes out.
Yeah.
But also having those microbes in that process
Yeah.
means that when they do start to grow, that they have that data there to be able to learn.
We sprayed, and every tree that we planted, we put IMO,
Yep.
EM spray, manure, wood chip. So
Just
the
like
whole
a
balance,
starter,
you
isn't
know,
it?
yeah. And that again to kickstart to help everything happen, and it really paid off.
And this
Really
is
paid off.
what I love about you using EM and you understanding EM. EM is not a miracle cure.
No.
It's not designed to be
No.
this amazing thing that's going to revitalise the world on its own.
No.
It can help,
It can help.
but it needs other things to be able to grow and develop.
Yeah, it didn't cure my grey hair, but you know. So this is all chicory. So hopefully next year we can dig up the roots, dry it and make, well, not camp coffee, but a chicory
coffee. Yeah.
substitute. They can't use the flowers in the pub, only because they bruise really easily. So they have to wash them because of health and hygiene, and they just break apart, which is a shame because they're a beautiful flower.
I mean, obviously, I can quite happily pick that and eat it, and I don't not have any issues with it. But obviously,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the site. Oh, no.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's very, very
Grassy?
peppery.
Grassy or
No, I would say peppery.
yeah. But as you can see, you
Ooh.
look through. You got
That's got an aftertaste.
so you got the kale flowers, the yellow, and then you got the chicory flowers. I mean, and this is just cover crop, just put down and just let it do its thing. And what we found also with our fruit bushes that are dotted in between, when we left it like this, we could go and harvest the berries really quickly. As soon as first year we crimped everything around each fruit bush. Next day you come down, all the fruit's gone.
Yeah.
So it shows that covered, safety net, keeping away birds. But we want birds.
Can I just point something out, because I know you're going to go on to about it before, but it's very wet underground. I know it's been raining, but in respects to irrigation, because you don't have any watering systems here, do you? This is the watering system.
So basically, by the cover crop and everything, bare soil can lose about 30% moisture. So every time you've got open soil, you're losing 30%. When the sun comes out, it could probably even increase more. But actually having a layer of mulch or living mulch, which is clover, any of the, it's actually keeping moisture in. So when that dew in the morning on soil, it just sits on top and dries out. With this, it runs through the leaves, it drops down, and it's underneath the canopy. So that moisture from the dew is underneath the grass canopy. So it stays there longer. So it's more chance of going into the soil, which obviously allows the plants.
Yeah.
So it's that principle of.
And I'm gonna say this because Josh told me, but one thing that he said to me the other day when I came up was a new value in a farm will be canopy.
Yes.
And shade.
Shade. Yeah, and wind protection.
And wind protection.
Yeah.
I mean, climate's changing a lot. And, one thing that we forget is that actually the sun has massive effects in respects to moisture content in soil.
Yeah, and the plants burning leaves. You
Yeah.
know, we're having to probably think about soon our fruits will be southern France style.
Yep.
That's how much our climate's changing from the northern hemisphere.
Which is very worrying. But do you know what I need to point out? I'm just looking at this here. I mean, it's moving. Look at it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You've got bees, you've got butterflies. I mean, yeah, it's beautiful. And, it does make me laugh that, we're now talking about rewilding and etc., which is great to hear, but actually the best way to rewild is not to cut it down.
No.
And just leave it, let Mother Nature do its thing, and you've really kind of taken that on board, because that's what you get. Look at it, look at the bees buzzing around. The last time I came here, there was quite a lot of algae, but it looks like
around the
it's
side now.
yeah, it looks like it's
Yeah,
less now.
last week we put the waders on and cleared it out. Because it's a new pond and because it's a liner based, it takes a long time for it to settle. So we had a bloom of algae which we had to remove to the banks. Aesthetically in time, but we have used with effect, and I must say, is using EM on
Oh,
the
so you did
algae.
actually use EM in
Yes,
there, yeah?
yes.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't going to make a comment because I wasn't lining you up, but cool.
because it time got away with us, it got to too big a bloom. It would have cost us too much and too much effort to put that much into it. So basically, what we're going to do now, we've cleared it. The sink in my biolab is connected directly to here. So I can then put buckets of EM
Directly into it.
straight into it, which will flush through and just help to keep that balance, you know, because the edges were done with upside down turf. So there's a lot of nitrogen that's leaked into the pond, which has caused that bloom. And until these plants are structured in lily pads and everything else, you know, we have to help it a little bit. Because again, it's a linus, that's not a natural thing. You know, most ponds, if they're natural, have a soil base, which is where the roots and insects and that whole balance of oxygenated plants. But because we've had to put ours in baskets, because it is a liner and there's no soil, but in time, those plants that drop their leaves, everything falls in there, that will build up a natural.
And also, when you get the lily pads growing in excess in here, you'll create a cover crop
Yeah,
anyway. Won't you?
again, you'll shade out, so there won't be the area
Yeah.
for that algae to. Yeah, you'll probably see frogs. There's snails, dragonflies, not on a windy day, on a sunny day. Many times that weekend I've come up and sat on here and there are so many dragonflies. It is stunning, absolutely stunning. Oh, that was a bee. Oh, there was a dragonfly. But there are, you know, some amazing, I think 4 different types of dragonfly we've had here. And the damselflies, and it's just when the sun's out, it is beautiful. But you can actually go for a swim. We've designed it so it goes down steady. It's only about this deep in the middle. 3/4 of these plants are on the edible spectrum as well. So you've got water mint and everything else, but we can't use them yet until the balanced water naturally settles, because you could have E. coli. So again, because it's a food source, we have to have it tested. So that's that. So we have swales similar to what I said by the Windrow. We've got 3 of them here, and basically they fill up with water in the winter or when there's a wet period, and you'll get different insects, and then in the summer they drop and they crack, blah blah blah. And also when these flood, if we need to, we can actually have a pump system. We can take that water back up to our water bowsers at the top. So the whole cycle, we could, if we want to raise this because it becomes low and the plants suffer, we can put our rainwater directly into this and bring it up. So we can control the environment quite easily to get the best out of the environment. It's not for, you know, us. It's obviously different parts of the year when it's supposed to be wet. We can help nature because we want nature to be part of this whole process.
Yeah, I mean, it looks amazing how it's, you know, kind
Well,
of
I found a
established itself.
video for 2 years ago when they first started digging that hole, and it's just like a deserty brown with a hole. That's 2
Oh, I
years
remember.
ago.
I remember. Yeah, it was literally a brown hole.
You know, people think about also insects, but they need to drink. So again, you know, they can only drink so much, but if there's no dew in the morning, there is at the minute, because obviously the night temperature's dropping, you know, you're giving those insects, again, which most of them are predators, you know, and that brings the birds in. The birds then eat the slugs, the predators, you know, all of the whole thing, the beetle larvae that, you know, eat baby slugs. We had a really bad infestation of slugs beginning this year. We lost a lot of crops because we haven't got the balance yet, because it was new, and this is why we're putting more trees in, because at the minute birds are coming from this hedge darting in, darting out, because they don't feel safe. So by putting trees in our vegetable patches, they can drop down, and they feel safe. So we're doing it for a principle of windbreaks, but also allowing the birds, you know, the things that will eat one of our biggest problems, which is slugs.
It's interesting that you're not using a repellent for slugs.
No.
You're learning from it.
Well, no, because most repellents affect other insects.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the market that would just solely go, really, just for a slug. And there's this new one that's got micro sharp bits of crystals in it, which is supposed to really irritate slugs, but it does damage to so many other things.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it's a
yeah.
detrimental effect on the rest of the ecosystem, just so that you can kill some slugs. But actually, if you find a way of being able to then feed those slugs, you know, to the rest of nature, then they will come in and help you anyway.
This is a syntropic area. This is a trial. Syntropic, basically, if you imagine, say, we're in a really hot country in a lovely rainforest, and the family were there and their son married and they wanted their own house. So they were clearing an area of trees, okay, to build the house. But they want to grow trees again, so they only have little saplings. So what they would do, they would plant the saplings, and while those saplings take 5 to 8 years to grow, they would grow vegetables in between. And that's what we do. So again, you're putting your annual veg in the middle, which is bacteria fed, which is again, we use EM, and then the perennials, which is fungi. So if you imagine, they go underneath the mycelia and underneath, and then you've got the bacteria. And what we're doing is finding really good results on the plants, the crops we grow in the middle, because you've got the best of both worlds. And again, a lot of these eucalyptus, I'm just actually making a eucalyptus spray. We had a really terrible sawfly. It wiped out virtually all our brassicas over one weekend. A plague. It was a plague. It was absolutely, I couldn't believe it when I come in on the Monday morning. So again, we're using our own garlic. We were growing through here. So we planted in garlic. Probably won't come out now because the ground's quite hard, but yeah, we got our own garlic. We potted through here, which would dig up. So we utilise every space that anyone would, you know. But it is a trial because it was meant as a syntropic, obviously, tropical place, but ours is a little bit more. So we're having some success. Some of the lower ones got a bit too wet, so it's just learning, again, playing with it. So again, the hay bokashi from the Windrow would mulch these perennial rows every year. So once that's full up, and then a year later, we can bring it down here and then mulch to feed the perennials. The produce field.
And my favourite place, because,
I think it's 4 acres.
4 acres, is it?
I think it's 4 acres. So basically these rows had garlic and broad beans in. The broad beans have just gone over, the garlic's been pulled up, which you'll see in the potting shed drying. Same as that was up there. We put in what we call syntropic beds, so very similar to the bottom, but of perennials. So we've done 3 lines across here. So we've got the Burns, which is a natural, was a Devon heap with a hedge on top, but we were finding the wind was just coming over and whipping across, and we had so much wind damage. So by putting 3 lines in, what happens with the wind, it would come down, find another thing, and the wind is lazy, so it would then skit across. And by doing that, you'll keep more warmth, more moisture, because the wind's not going through, drying everything out. So again, we're trying to use nature to help with nature.
Yeah, makes complete sense. But this is the thing, is that for people that are going to watch this, they're probably going to go, yeah, I understand natural gardening, etc. And then there's others that are going to look at this and go, it just looks a mess.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, because it does, in most people's...
Yep, definitely. I mean, look at this. This is the crop that was growing here. We crunched down, and it's now rotting down slowly like a slow carbohydrate. All the small leaves are rotted down and been taken in by the worms. The bigger stuff takes a little bit longer to break down. Again, it's keeping moisture and it's keeping the weeds in, but it's allowing the cover crop, phacelia, clover, again, all those nitrogen fixing things to help the plant.
But I think what we need to show people is actually what's going on in here, because this is the key bit, is obviously what's going on in here. Look at that. I mean, most people, and I'm going to say the word compost because people will look at it as compost.
People have a really good compost bin will have that. Well, this is exactly what you're doing in every bed.
Yeah.
But rather than you taking it away and bringing it back, it just does it for you. So all that manpower wheeling it to a compost heap, just leave it on the ground.
Just leave it on the ground, cover it over. And it may look messy for a little while,
Yeah.
but the thing that grows the other side of it
Yes.
is...
And then you have polyculture. So we've got chard, we've got lettuces, we've got coriander through this bed. There's beetroots just dotted down the sides. So everything is covered. There's very minimal. There's a bit of grass, but there's very Phacelia, different things down there. And we've done the beetroot in blocks. So we've got a lovely bolt hardy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that I'm sure
That's
you...
a small one. So this one.
Yeah, I mean, most people would say it was quite a big one, but I
Yeah,
think...
well, that's just I haven't showed you my courgette yet.
No,
I haven't showed you courgette yet. So again, as I said, these lettuces are bolted, but we're going to leave them because we want to collect the seed. So we got the seed for next year. Okay,
Yeah.
but also they will flower, you know, but they are very bitter now.
Yeah, so if you tasted that, it kind of will taste like lettuce, but it will be very bitter.
Very bitter.
Yeah.
So, but we're leaving those because we want to keep the seeds. Again, these lettuces are grown in our climate, in our soil, so the genes are set. So
Yep.
if we get the seeds, and you might find they cross-pollinate with the red, the
Yep.
Rosso. So what you might find is you might get a really funky one. growing.
Yeah, hybrid. Without
And
using
we've got
any...
that with the cows. We've already had some red Russian with frills. We've got frilly red Russian. So that's really lovely, and the pub love it. So
Yeah, because it's something different. Yeah. And
Again, we're using ornamentals, but this is chrysanth, the only edible chrysanth. It's quite a strong leaf, put into salads. It worked in the beef salad. It's very strong. Again, you can eat the flowers edible for obviously garnish, making things look very pretty. So, but it brings pollinators in the whole.
But this is a thing that makes me laugh when I look at this, because if you then put this into a commercial background,
Yeah.
people would look at it and go, oh, it's just a load of mess. I mean, you got, I have to point out the nettles. Can you
Yeah.
explain the nettles in
Yeah,
here?
they're put on the purposely to annoy the gardeners. So every time you weed, because when in the summer you have gloves, a t-shirt, and there's this little area here that gets stung. Now again,
There is a reason though, isn't there?
there's 11 different insects that live on stinging nettles, and also I use them as part of my fermentation, because obviously they're really high in nutrients and everything. 'Cause basically, stinging nettles only really grow on really fertile ground. So they take a lot of nutrients up. So we take the tips, not the flowering heads now, and again we can make a fermented plant juice out of them. So again, very, very useful, but they're mainly for annoying the gardener. As you say, these are the courgettes. Last year we had a really bad year with courgettes because we didn't have the second greenhouse, which is our propagation greenhouse. So a lot of our young squash plants got rotted because it was so wet.
Yeah.
But this year, because we had that, we could keep them indoors. They lasted a little bit longer. We put them out, and they just sit there going mad.
And this is what makes me laugh. You go to a supermarket and buy this, so this is 2023 at the moment. To buy one of those, I went to Lidl's the other day, it was £1.90 for that size. I mean, you look at it and laugh,
I
because...
tell you, 150, it's yours. There's all different things. Aniseed hyssop, mint hyssop. I don't know if this one's the aniseed or... No, it's a mint one. I'll try and find you the aniseed. There's an aniseed hyssop that tastes of aniseed, which they use in the bar for cocktails, making syrups and things like that. Then the beans and peas and sugar snaps. Again, we used all the hazel sweet pea sticks from our hedgerow where the sloes were. So that's full of hazel. So we used those as pea sticks. We harvest them just as they started to, before they break leaf. So they're obviously got the sap in, so you'll be able to tie them together to make a frame. So we used all those. Because of the wind problem, we had some old chicken mesh left over at the farm, so we utilised it again. So we've done one chicken mesh just to see
what happens.
what happens.
Yeah.
It's utilising what was stuff left by builders, would have gone to landfill, so we've used it. But you can eat the flowers. again, it's just trying to make everything we grow polyculture, which means we just intermake everything. Beetroots.
Yeah.
We had polythene left over for the builders. We generally don't like using polythene. I don't want to highlight it, but we're utilising it to put a bed to sleep. This was so badly weedy, and for the sake of manpower, we've literally used it just to set the bed down. And if I show you, this is a prime example of the molt. That'll be a good example of that no dig situation. So this bed
Yeah, I'm
here,
always interested to hear what people think of no-till, no-dig, because obviously there are, and we'll just make it nice and generic.
so basically this bed was like this bed here, just covered with cover crop, chopped down hay. Okay, it was left over winter to mulch, and this what is underneath. So you really get in the worms. It hasn't been broken up yet.
No, but straight away, I mean, I'm picking it up and look at it.
The smell, you know, you get that smell of forest floor, of rotting vegetation, the good smell, not the,
Yeah, but
the
this
rotting
is...
cabbage smell that a lot of composts have.
So I do this a lot with, when I talk to people about composting generally, is that the best way to tell if it's good or bad is sniff it. If it smells like soil...
Our noses are the best safety deterrent we have.
Yeah. But actually, if it smells more like soil than it does anything else, then that's a good thing, because that's the microbes you smell in that process. But you look at that, I mean, you know, it's amazing.
So as I was saying, so we won't cultivate this. So what we've done is remove the material onto this bed, and what we do is we call it broad forking. So basically there is some compaction, because you found it quite hard to put your hand in.
Yep.
Okay, because this has been set, the rain and everything has compressed it down. So what we use is a broad fork, which is one of these babies. So basically, as I said to you, that if I said to you the soil's like a city, okay, you got skyscrapers with people living in, then you've got your power lines, you've got shops, you've got your people in cafes eating, and then you've got your roads, then you've got your sewage. You dig. You put the sewage at the top, you put all those people in the skyscrapers down at the bottom. It's the same as nature. Not all those animals can live at those different levels. So why do we cultivate it? We just ruin their lives. So again, you're killing half your soil. So again, what you have to do, put fertilizer on, put fertilizer on. So again, by taking material away, starving what's in the ground of food out of season, but by cultivating, you're killing the other half. So again, you have a very strong bacteria count of bad bacteria, because they're the ones that are strongest and, you know, the meanest, as we all know.
Yep.
So what we do is what we call broad fork. So basically we put this spike in and we lift the soil to crack like that, and then you let it. So all we've done is just open those layers.
Yep.
So we haven't changed the layers, but that's going to allow air, water to penetrate deeper than if you have compacted ground, it washes off. So if you have a downpour, it just washes off, runs down there, and that soil stays dry.
Do you know what makes me laugh though? Because this process, if you look taking it, because we live in a society where people want to have perfect lawns.
Yeah.
Aeration of lawns, people understand that because you make holes in it and therefore the grass grows.
Yeah. And then all we do over there, we will put a layer of IMO, bokashi, spray in part of our soil solution, and if we had it biochar, rake it over and then put that mulch back on. So we've got food for all that bacteria and fungi we just put in there. We've got biochar for them to go to sleep when they don't want to feed or it's too cold, too wet. So that's what I call about resetting these beds. Every bed will be the same. So we cut down plants and drop them. We might take, if there's too much material, to another bed, or if there's excess, we've done all bed, it will go into the windrow, which will come back in. But we try, because that's manpower taking it everywhere, trying to utilise it as much as we can. You know,
you've created organic matter here, and as you know, with organic matter, there is a demand for it on farms.
Yes.
But actually, all you've done is you've grown a crop for a purpose of organic matter, and then utilised it then for the next season to be able to grow things to to eat.
Yeah. So this was planted up last week, so it was reset, and then the grass from the edges we used as a mulch, just lightly because they're only young plants. As the plants grow, we'll put thicker mulch on. Okay, so there's leeks, chard, kale, so we put all that through there, but we're using the material, and the bigger clumps of grass that comes out from the sides, we put on this side to dry it and die off, and then use them.
But this is the interesting thing. If you look at your beds, you've done higher increase of bacteria, but in some of the perennials, you've done obviously wood chip, which is more fungi, because you understand that
If I show you
that is important for that kind of culture system.
So this has been planted up with cabbages and things in here, and leeks.
Okay, so there's leeks, and I can see the leeks down there.
I'll try and
Babies.
find it. There you go, there's microfungus, there's mycelium, all in the wood chip. That's all just naturally there.
And again, you've just designed the system so that they can create this, not putting it in there.
So basically all that fungi is breaking down that wood chip, which is our own wood chipped. So it's again from our trees, as I said, through the edible forest. Some of those big ones we will cut down and chip. We don't like chipping, but at the minute some of the big ones you can't just leave as logs, but we're using those in the future, which I'll leave for another secret.
Ooh, the sequel, I like that.
We've lost our natural thing to eat, what's in season.
Create carbon pockets and retain that carbon to be able to do something with it, and obviously create those nutrient pockets that are needed for the plants themselves.
And again, why would we put the manpower into cutting it, mowing it, using fossil fuel when we probably don't need to?
That at some point, if you don't have that canopy, then things are just going to burn. Maybe there's some sense in agroforestry in respects to growing things. So actually having a forest and having the canopy.
Rainforests.
Yeah.
Really hot countries, but look at the growth, the lushness. Why? Because it's got a canopy. And all these fancy foods and crops to grow everywhere that really everyone, just grow what we have and we'll grow. If I said to you the soil's like a city, okay? You've got skyscrapers with people living in, then you've got your power lines, you've got shops, you've got the people in cafes eating, and then you've got your roads, then you've got your sewage. You dig, you put the sewage at the top, you put all those people in the skyscrapers down at the bottom. It's the same as nature. Not all those animals can live at those different levels. So why do we cultivate it? We just ruin their lives. So again, you're killing half your soil.